There is grandeur in this view of life.
Welcome to Evolution Talk with Rick Coast, an introduction to the oldest story ever told.
Our story today begins in 1980. That's when a Buddhist monk trekked up to a cave on the Tibetan Plateau 2 miles above sea level. He was there, as is so often the case, to meditate. And after meditating, he discovered something unusual on the cave floor. A bone. It wasn't a leg bone or an arm or a femur. It was a jaw. A partial jaw. And what struck him as odd was that this jawbone had large teeth. Not sure what he had found, he took it with him. The bone eventually found its way to Lanzhou University and was placed in a spot of prestige. Well, actually, not quite. I made that last part up. Not the part about bringing it to Lanzhou University, but the part about placing it in a spot of prestige. Unfortunately, no one quite knew what it was, so it did what it had been doing for well over 100,000 years. It collected dust. We'll get back to that misplaced mandible a little later, but first I want to bring you to another place. That place being a cave nestled in the Siberian Altai Mountains. Not too far away are the borders of Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and China. A hermit once lived here. Unlike the monk in the beginning of our story, this hermit lived in the cave he used to get away from it all. His name was Denis, and he lived here over 100 years ago. And it's because of Denis that the cave came to be called the Denisova Cave. Not bad for a hermit. Also, unlike our monk in 1980, Denis had no idea what lay beneath the dirt in his cave. Now, since we're hopping around in a time machine, let's jump to another time. This one being much closer to our own. We'll stick to Denis's cave, though. Time machine, I'd like to travel again.
What year would you like?
2008, please.
You are now in 2008.
Thank you. Okay, so we're in 2008. Our hermit's cave is right over there. At the moment, there's an excavation going on. And it's not for anything that Denis left, it's for something else. Like the cave the monk found the missing mandible in, this cave has bones as well. Lots of bones. Over 100,000 pieces of tiny bones belonging to creatures like mammoths and sheep. But there's something else. Humans. But these humans are different. They are not Neanderthal either. They are something else. We know this from analysis that's been done on a few of the bones. Not many, mind you. Just a small piece of finger bone and a couple molars from an adult, or adults, and a baby tooth. DNA extraction revealed their identities, or lack of identity to be exact. An examination of the mitochondrial DNA told us something unexpected. And you can always expect the unexpected when it comes to things found deeply buried in a Siberian cave that once belonged to a hermit. What was found was that these bones didn't come from modern humans, nor did they come from Neanderthals who lived at the same time as our early modern human ancestors. These humans in this cave also lived at that time. It was another hominin branch that wasn't us, nor was it our Neanderthal cousins. They were genetically different from both of us. Enter the Denisovans. Now, what do we know about the Denisovans? Surprisingly little, but we know a bit more than we did around 2008 when we realized we had bone fragments from 4 individuals. We know we shared a common ancestor, and that ancestor existed about 1 million years ago, way before we entered the picture. We also know that they lived in the area surrounding the Hermit's Cave between 100,000 to 200,000 years ago, and some as recently as 90,000 years ago. We know that because one of those bones found in the cave belonged to a little girl who we now call Denny. It's a much better name than she was given when we found her bone, that being Den 11. Now, what makes Denny unique, and incredibly so, is that she's not 100% Denisovan. Denny's mother was a Neanderthal and her father was a Denisovan. Denny represents the first human hybrid, say love child, to have ever been found. To our knowledge now, anyway. For all we know, we have the bones of other hybrids squirreled away in some forgotten museum drawer, mislabeled and lost to time. Which brings us back to the monk's mandible. If you haven't guessed already, we now know that the jawbone with the oversized teeth discovered on that Tibetan plateau belonged to a Denisovan who lived roughly 160,000 years ago. This Denisovan didn't live anywhere near the Hermit's Cave in Siberia. They were much more traveled than we thought. The jawbone's discovery revealed something else. Modern Tibetans possess a gene that allows them to live at high altitudes, and it's always been somewhat of a mystery. This gene, EPAS1, has something to do with the body's ability to process the protein hemoglobin. Having this gene provides the oxygen needed to withstand the lower oxygen counts that come with living at high altitudes. That gene comes from the Denisovans. Just like many of us have traces of Neanderthal DNA in our DNA, so too do modern Tibetans when it comes to the Denisovan DNA. So, have we found any more Denisovan fossils? We have. As recently as last year in 2019, pieces of a skull were found outside of Denisova Cave. The more we find, the better our picture of the Denisovans and their lives will become. And there's more. 2019 was a big year for our long-forgotten cousins. Genome research has indicated that the Denisovans not only lived in Siberia and Tibet, where the mandible was discovered, but also Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. Some of the analysis also suggests that they were a bit different than their Siberian Denisovans. Another species, perhaps? Well, it's too soon to tell. Just imagine how much we'll know, or begin to know, in another 50 years. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Evolution Talk. I'm Rick Coast, and you can find show notes and source material used for this episode at evolutiontalk.com. I hope your week is going well, and until next time, please take care of yourself.
Evolution Talk is a Rick Coast production.